Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Sunday, March 24th, 2019, and it's 5:18 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So I've got sulfur dioxide from chems pulled up here on the world view. This is from today for total column level sulfur dioxide, Sunday, March 24th, and this is a total column, and we don't have new methane data. The latest methane data is from last Monday, the 18th, so it's a week old now. So, but I am going to go over Nostradoomus's Methane Report. We're going to spend a little bit of time going over that, but I wanted to start with all this sulfur dioxide going on. Of note, we've got this down here in the South Pacific, and it is in that comma shape, which is indicative of a volcanic explosion. And there's nothing down there, and there are some underwater volcanoes a little bit further to the west, but literally there's nothing down there. And so that popped up. It wasn't there yesterday, and now it's here today, and it is showing the exclamation point, which is indicative of an explosive blast from a volcano. So there are no earthquakes down there, but what I found is this can also be a precursor to earthquake activity that may be showing up in this ridge down here in the near future. We also have a red plume. It looks like it's starting out of southern Russia here, or maybe northern China. I can't really tell. And this was not on the map yesterday as well. It's just popping up today, and then it goes up northwest and curves around, and then spreads out over the Arctic. And it's pretty red, so I'm not sure what this is from. I looked on the Russian volcano website, and it didn't show anything being active over here, so it's just hard to know. So anyway, we've got large sulfur dioxide releases there, and then we have more as well around the planet, but these are not something we see all the time, these that I'm showing today. So I just found that quite interesting. And of course, as this sulfur dioxide moves into the Arctic, it'll spread out, and then when it rains or snows, it'll come down in acid, sulfuric acid and ash and, stuff like that. And that will also not be good for any sea ice that we have up there. It will speed up the warming of that or the melting of that sea ice. So next, here I was going to show you the volcanoes of southern Pacific Ocean. They're only on volcanodiscovery.com. They're only showing 3. And then these are not the ones in Indonesia. These are to the east of New Zealand, in that area. And they're showing Antipodes Island and 2 unnamed ones, but all of these are too far west of that plume that we saw. So I really don't think I really don't think that this is from any of these that they know about. So there's that. Next, I want to get right into Dave's methane report. I don't know why I'm so hoarse all of a sudden, so just bear with me. Now, if you recall, at the first part of March, Dave gave a report, and he did this all on his own, and he did it in a comment under one of my videos, and it was from March the 9th. And this is where he had taken some numbers from NOAA, from the METOP-1 satellite, METOP-2, and taken their readings and had compared them all during the week, and had seen an average increase of 4 parts per billion over the 7-day period. And so since then he has been charting the methane, and I've worked with him to get a uniform system of charting it. And so he in his report last week, he said it was down like 0.5 parts per billion, and we didn't really go into any numbers. And then today he left a couple of posts, and the first one, now both of them are important because we see the difference just in 1 day's worth of data. So he says, I'm going to go over both of them, and then I've actually put all this data into a spreadsheet, and so I'm going to look at that with you too. Hi Margo, as promised, please allow me to present my weekly methane report. Although I am an expert mathematician, I just can't get the data to add up. The results from the 2 METOP satellites are contradictory. Below are my findings. To keep repeating myself, and to keep my report as concise as possible, all figures are parts per billion represented at the atmospheric heights of, and then he spread it out, and so that he get a wider range from all these millibars: 931, 706, 477, and 300. And for people who are not familiar with millibars or HPA, the bigger the millibar, the closer it is to the surface of the Earth, and the lower the number, the higher it is up in the atmosphere. And so then he gave us the data for the METOP-2 satellite, starting with the 16th in the morning, and then the 23rd in the morning, and then the 16th in the afternoon, the 23rd in the afternoon, for all those levels. And then he says, giving an average drop of 0.75 parts per billion. So that looks good, doesn't it? Think again. Here's the METOP-1 data. And then he did the 16th in the morning, 20th to the 23rd in the morning, 16th in the afternoon to the 23rd in the afternoon. This shows an average rise of 2.5 parts per billion. I don't know what to make of it. Why are they reporting totally different sets of data? It does look to be consistently building in the lower half of the atmosphere, according to the METOP-1 data, giving a mean rise of of 3.17 parts per billion, although the overall mean of all the data I've collected put together, which is contradictory, remember, comes out at a rise of 0.875 parts per billion. It all depends on whether you live up in the land of hopium or down in the depths of the Doomosphere, which of the two satellites you believe. Time is very short. Love to everyone. And so we did some messaging on Facebook, and he went back and realized that that the data he was looking at was actually the 22nd. So he updated the report. He said, methane update alarming. It appears that the data I reported on earlier was from the previous day, 22nd, although it was clearly presented on NOAA as being the 23rd. All the information has now been updated with startling differences. So here's all the new data for the 23rd. Taking the morning data from both satellites in the lower half of the atmosphere, the mean rise of methane concentration has jumped by 3.83 parts per billion in the space of 24 hours, including a rise of 7 parts per billion for Met-Op-1 AM at 706 millibars. The average increase for both satellites AM and PM at all 4 heights I'm monitoring is now revised at 2.19 parts per billion, 1.25 parts per billion of this in the last day. Be interesting to see the CAMS data when it catches up. Yeah, so thank you for all that, Dave. So I got his data, and I also got the original where he started on March the 9th. And so I've got this spreadsheet that I want to share. I need a better backdrop. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, that's jumpy going from one to the next. So I asked him for the original starting data from the 9th, so he sent that to me. So this is all the data, and on his first report, he remember he was just doing this on the fly, and so he looked at Met-Op-1 in the AM for 477 HPA, and then for the other readings he chose 496 HPA. So I guess because they were higher or something. I'm not sure why he wasn't consistent there. And so we discussed it and said, you know, you really need the same levels if you're going to really track all this on an ongoing basis and get good readings. And so so the only data that I pulled off of that his first report was from March the 1st, and that was 400 and it was 1870 at 477 millibars. Okay, so that's the only thing from the first report. So here we are from the 9th, and then here it is for the 16th. This is all Met-Op-1 in the AM. Here it is for the 22nd, and then I put the 23rd in as well. So what we can see is from the 9th to the 23rd on this one satellite, and this is at 931 millibars, which is close to surface level, it's gone up 6 parts per billion. And at 706 millibars, it's gone up from 1830 to 1840. so it's gone up 10 parts per billion. And at 477 millibars from the 9th, it's gone up from 1875 to 1882. It's gone up 5 parts per billion. But if you go back to the first, which was his first report, it went up from 1870 to 1882, so it's gone up 12 parts per billion. And then at 300 millibars, it's gone down from 1879 to 1877, so it's gone down 2 parts per billion, and that's very high up in the atmosphere. So this is the there are 2 satellites that are going around the Earth taking these readings. One's called the METOP-1, the other one is called the METOP-2. And they go around and take these readings in the morning and in the afternoon. So you have an AM reading and a PM reading. And so now if you look at METOP-1 in the afternoon, it's hardly any difference. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm wondering what's going on here. But anyway, so, or maybe the satellites cover different areas at different times. So the METOP-1 and the PM were started at 931 millibars on the 9th was 1801, and today, or yesterday, the 23rd, was 1801, so that stayed the same. And then at 706 millibars, it's started at 1831, and it's gone up to 1833, so it's gone up 2. But it was last week, it was 1830, or yesterday was 1834, so it had gone up 3. And then it went back down 1. So methane is very light, and it can fluctuate a lot. But you know, we should see something on a long term if we're here to kind of get a feel for what's going on at the different levels. And then at 477 millibars, we started on the 9th at 1873, and today, I mean the 23rd, we've got 1875, so that's gone up 2. And at 300 millibars, we started on the 9th at 1876, and yesterday it went up to 1877, so it's gone up 1. Then on the METOP-2 satellite, this one, and there's a big difference between the readings here on some of these. So on the METOP-2 satellite in the morning on the 9th at 931 millibars, it was 1804, and then it went down 2 on the 16th, it went up 1 by the 22nd, and then it went up 1 more on the 23rd. So now it's reading 1803, so it's down 1 from the 9th. And then at 706 millibars on the 9th, it was reading 1825. And then it went down to 1822 on the 16th, went up to 1823 on the 22nd, and then it jumped up 3 on the 23rd to 1826. Then at 477 millibars on the 9th, it started at 1852. On the 16th, it went down by 1 to 1851. The 22nd, it was still 1851, and on the 23rd went up 1 to 1853. Then at 300 millibars, it started at 1844, went down 1 on the 16th, went down another 1 by the 22nd, then came back 1 on the 23rd. So overall it's gone down by 1. So it ending at 1843. Then the Met Op 2 in the PM, in the afternoon, 931 millibars. On the 9th, we started at 1805, and then we ended yesterday at 1803, so that's gone down by 2. At 706 millibars on the 9th, it started at 1824, and we ended yesterday at 1825, so it went up 1. At 477 millibars on the 9th, it started at 1849, and yesterday it ended at 1850, so it went up 1. At 300 millibars, it started at 1839, and yesterday it was reading 1839, which was the same. So this is a lot of work, and it's a lot of tracking, and if you're familiar with that NOAA website, you have to go through all these different possibilities and look at them and write all the numbers down and track them all and everything. So Dave is doing a real good job of that. So thank you, Dave, for bringing us these numbers. And then I decided to do the spreadsheet just so that we could have just a quick glance and be looking at the difference, first of all, between the satellites and where we're at and where we might see some spikes. And these numbers are the mean number. That's the average on the reading every single day. This is the global average at that certain time of the day with that satellite. So if you want to see that, we can look at that, but we've been there, and most of you all know how to read that. So so we're going to leave that for now. So next week, when we get our data, I'll plug it into the spreadsheet, and then we can do the report and see where we are from the beginning and how much it's changed since last week. Because with Cam's gone walkabout, it's hard to know what's going on. We just don't know. We just don't know what's going on. And these are high numbers for means. These are global mean or global average, and these are very high numbers. And we're going to see them get higher and higher and higher is what we're going to see, especially as summer picks up for the northern hemisphere. So I'm going to close that now. And next, so thank you, Dave, for that hard work and for bringing that data to us. I really do appreciate it. So we're gonna keep tracking that with you. Next, okay, I'm gonna close out that. Next, I want to do a follow-up on the Australia situation, and we have a new cyclone developing in the South Indian Ocean. Now, I really don't want to become a weather reporter. You know, I'd much rather be doing other things, but you know, it just bears reporting, since nobody else is really doing this. And Bear's bringing this to people's attention because these storms are big and they're dumping tons and tons of rain, and they're coming out of nowhere, and they're bigger than, and they're more severe, and with everything coming down the way it is, we're going to be seeing more and more of these. So here's Trevor. It's still raining, but it's not even being tracked anymore as a cyclone or anything. Here's Veronica. It has made landfall. It's moving really slow. Here we have it on on Earth Null School. Here's where Trevor has ended up, and it's not going very fast. And here's Veronica, and we can see it's not red anymore. It's still, the eye is still there and circulating, but it's not red. So there's I have a couple of articles we can look at for that. And we have a new storm that we're tracking over here in the South Indian Ocean, Johanna, or something like that, Joninha, and there are these little islands right here that they're approaching, and so I've got a report on that. And this is a cyclone. So here's our update. This is from AccuWeather. Indian Ocean Typhoon and Tropical Storm Center. Veronica along the northwestern Australia coast, and Joninha continues to strengthen. There's Joninha. This is as of today. As of Sunday evening, Eastern Daylight Time, Tropical Cyclone Veronica was located along the northwestern Australia coast, 60 miles west of Port Hedland, Australia. Veronica is a Category 2 storm on the Australia Bureau of Meteorology scale. Maximum sustained winds are 62 miles an hour, with gusts to 85 miles an hour. Veronica was moving southwest at 2 miles an hour. Bands of heavy rain will continue to bring flooding over the Pilbara coast and inland areas. Veronica is forecast to move westward and continue to slowly weaken as it moves along the coast over the next few days. Now, I wanted to show you something about Veronica. Look at this band of clouds and rain that it's dragging in, and it was not like that yesterday. Here it was yesterday, it was by itself, and as it's moving in, it looks like it's merging with this band of rain clouds coming all the way across Australia. So they're going to get more rain. That's all there is to it. So I don't know what to say. Also, severe tropical cyclone Joninha was located approximately 190 miles northwest of Port Methane Rodriguez. Maximum sustained winds are 110 miles per hour, with gusts 135 miles per hour. Joninha is moving south-southwest at only 2 miles per hour. Joninha is forecast to continue to strengthen over the next few days and will bring damaging winds and flooding rainfall to Rodriguez Monday night and Tuesday. And here's the Indian Ocean basin maps, if you want that. Advanced radar, heavy rain. Oh yeah, California. We've got heavy rain and snow coming in again. So anyway, I'll leave the link below for this. Oh, and I wanted to show you where Joninha is going to be. It's right over here. This little island right here is Rodriguez. This is the Port Mathurin that it's going to be coming up against. So everyone batten down the hatches there. So that's all I need. A cyclone along with those earthquakes over there. So there's that. And so I'm not going to go over cyclones and hurricanes and stuff anymore for today. I think people can get the idea with that. But I will leave some more links if people want to look at them. Well, I will go over this one. This is a news story, and it shows the flooding and stuff with Veronica. I'm going to close this. This is from 9news.com.au. Cyclone Veronica residents urged to stay indoors until dangerous storm passes. Here's a video where they're talking about it. This is from 9 News. West Australians are being urged to remain indoors as the weakening but still dangerous Cyclone Veronica moves through the state's north this morning. Here you can see it. That's where it was making landfall this morning. This was updated at 5:54 a.m. on March 25th, Australia time. The monster storm poses the biggest risk to the Pilbara region in a decade. Karratha and surrounding towns have been on red alert since Saturday, with residents forced to stay indoors. The Category 3 storm brought very destructive gusts of more than 200 kilometers per hour as it tracked along the coast between Karratha and Port Hedland. Weather experts are predicting the cyclone will weaken, but there remains the possibility of dangerous storms and low-lying flooding. So here's where they're tracking it. Residents are being told the cyclone could sweep through about noon. So it's moving really slow. It continues to be slow moving and is producing destructive winds and heavy rainfall on the central Pilbara coast between Karratha and Port Hedland, including Roebourne. Meanwhile, authorities have said a mother who gave birth to a child at Port Hedland yesterday has named her child Veronica. The BOM said the storm will weaken into this morning when it will begin to move west, but the danger will remain for some time and communities should expect to remain indoors throughout today. Widespread rainfall means major flooding over the Pilbara coast is likely through the day. Rivers are rising and roads and communities could be cut off and isolated. A dangerous storm tide was also predicted to hit the region early this morning, and damaging waves are predicted to bring inundation. Many communities remain at red alert status. So there's a picture of the storm waves coming in. And so I'll leave this link if you want to read this, and here are people in shelters. It was downgraded to a Category 3 as it continued to move southeast at 8 kilometers per hour. Let's see, it hit the coastline of the Pilbara region between Dampier and Port Hedland yesterday morning. The rain has petered off a bit, but was belting down. The winds have picked up a massive amount. On social media, we've seen a few trees lifted out. They said the strong southerly winds reached 100 kilometers per hour and caused vegetation damage and destroyed a shed. And they're saying that the cyclone surge, they're concerned because it's a spring tide, which is the highest tide of the year, so they're expecting a surge of 2 to 5 meters. They're saying seek shelter in the strongest, safest parts of your homes and stay clear of doors or windows. And they said people would need to stay in shelter longer than usual due to the destructive storm's slow pace. Don't take matters into your own hands. Don't risk your own life or the lives of your children or the lives of others. Veronica is the third tropical storm this season, and it comes as Cyclone Trevor whips through the Northern Territory. The last Category 4 tropical cyclone to hit the WA coast was Christine in December 2013. So that was a while back. So there's that. Now I've got some news items that we'll go over quickly, and then we'll get right into earthquakes. We've got a lot of earthquakes. It's been busy. This is from endoftheamericandream.com. When was this? From March the 20th. This is a follow-up on the flooding in the Midwest in the United States. Catastrophic flooding in the Midwest could last for months, and that is going to mean a dramatic drop in U.S. food production. Look at that picture. The worst flooding disaster in the history of the Midwest is just getting started, and as this crisis unfolds, we're all going to be feeling the pain. The bomb cyclone that recently brought hurricane-force winds and blizzard conditions to the middle of the nation was the spark that set off this catastrophic flooding, and now all of the snow from one of the snowiest winters in decades is going to be feeding into rivers that have already shattered all-time flood records. As you will see below, most of the Great Plains and upper Midwest is currently covered by more than 10 inches of snow, and all of that water has to go somewhere. As all of that snow melts, we're going to witness an agricultural disaster that is far beyond anything that we have even ever seen before in modern American history. If you think I'm exaggerating even a little bit, please read this article all the way to the end. As I did research for this article, this was the guy writing it. He said, I was floored by the immense devastation that has already taken place, but if the crisis was over, at least farmers could start picking up the pieces. Unfortunately, the crisis is not over. In fact, Ohio Governor Kim Reynolds is saying that we're just getting started. The following comes from the USA Today article entitled, It Looked Like an Ocean. Severe Midwest flooding could last all spring. The severe flooding that swamped much of the region may be a long way from over. They're just getting started. Looks like an ocean. This was one of the worst winters for the middle part of the country that we've seen in ages, and now we're entering melt season. According to Bloomberg, the amount of snow currently covering the upper Midwest and Great Plains is absolutely staggering. At least 91% of the upper Midwest and Great Plains is snow covered to an average depth of 10.7 inches. That doesn't sound like much when you got feet and feet and feet over here in the mountains, Sierra Nevada mountains. But in the Midwest, where they don't normally get that much snow, then that's a lot. And so it says the snow is going to pour into the rivers. It's beyond a worst case scenario. And so on and so forth. As river levels rose, spilling over levees and swallowing up townships, farmers watched helplessly as the waters consumed not only their fields, but their stockpiles of grain, the one thing that can stand between them and financial ruin. I've never seen anything like this in my life, said Tom Geisler, a farmer in Winslow, Nebraska, who said he lost 2 full storage bins of corn. We'd been depending on the income from our livestock, but now all of our feed is gone, so that's going to be even more difficult. We haven't been making any money from our grain farming because of trade issues and low prices. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, flood-soaked wheat, corn, and soybeans are considered to be adulterated and they must be destroyed. And thanks to the ongoing trade war with China, farmers had a staggering amount of wheat, corn, and soybeans stored on their farms right now. As of December 1st, producers in states with flooding, including South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, and Illinois, had 6.75 billion bushels of corn, soybeans, and wheat stored on their farms, 38% of the total U.S. supplies available at that time, according to the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. Fremont County farmers estimate about 390,000 bushels of stored soybeans and about 1.2 million bushels of stored corn are underwater. And Jorgensen said more of last year's grain was being swallowed up Tuesday as the Missouri River crests. As local cash prices for corn and soybean, that's about $7.3 million farmers may be unable to replace, and that's in just one county. So there's that. This is awful. They're talking about the water. They said about a 3-foot wall, 100 foot wide, just flowing over the road, and within minutes 7 feet of water covered their farm. This is just heartbreaking. And then they started talking about the livestock and the cattle and the frightened horses, and they're taking tractors into the mud and slop to try and grab a hold of cows who were stuck belly deep in the mud and carry them to safety. And trying to free the baby calves who'd been frozen to the ground. With these things being said, there will be death, loss, and sadly in staggering numbers. Fields that are normally used for growing beans, corn, and grain, all are under tons of snow or several feet of water. This means these fields will more than likely not produce a crop this year, which will drive prices up throughout the year and into the future until we as a nation can recover further down the road. Families have lost everything, their equipment, their houses, their sheds, their tools, and all of their animals and their livelihoods. Literally, I mean, it's going to be like a third world country. And it goes on, and so there's the end of it. And it says, so how bad will things ultimately get as this crisis continues to unfold? We're facing something that we've never faced before, and nobody is quite sure what's going to happen next. So, I'll leave that link below. But that one just ripped my heart out. That's what's going on over here in the U.S. And that's the breadbasket, and we export a lot of grains and stuff. And oh, I already did that one. So the next one now this is continuing with that flood, and this is from SputnikNews.com. U.S. atomic plants dodging radioactive bullets as floodwaters submerge Midwest. And this is from, let's see, kind of hard to get the date here, March the 21st. Okay, so it's about 3 days old. With heavy rainfall inundating the U.S. Midwest, nuclear power plants risk being flooded. Remember I reported on that Cooper power plant still operating, and the waters were flooding outside, and they're still operating. Well, they're still operating. However, the plants continue to operate at full power, resulting in the potential for unnecessary, extremely high-risk accidents, according to Kevin Camps, the radioactive waste watchdog at the organization Beyond Nuclear. So, anyway, I'll leave the link below. I'm not going to read all this. But the Cooper is still running. On Monday, the Nebraska Public Power District announced that the Cooper nuclear plant was continuing to operate safely. We're operating at full power and the water is receding, and we expect the water level to continue dropping. He noted that the plant was 899.75 feet above sea level Monday morning, below the 901.5 feet that would require the nuclear reactor to shut down. You know, they're not giving it much leeway there. Less than 2 feet. So anyway, it could be a Fukushima, and so there's that. Sorry about the ads over there on the side. I wasn't even paying attention. I was reading my article. Half-naked women. You know, when I was growing up, we were shocked to even see a bra commercial on television. When I was growing up. Now, that's just par for the course. Now we're going to go up to Russia from National Geographic. This is from, I don't know when this is from, March 22nd. See Russia's massive new gas plant on the Arctic coast. And guess where it is? It's on the Yamal Peninsula. Right where all that methane is coming up. As climate change rapidly warms the Arctic, Putin's Russia places a big bet on the future of fossil fuels. This is the Yamal LNG plant, completed last December, can liquefy 16.5 million tons a year of natural gas pumped from a nearby field on the Yamal Peninsula. A fleet of ice-breaking tankers still under construction will transport the liquefied natural gas along the Russian Arctic coast to markets in Europe and Asia. And I've shown you that map where as the ice melts, the ships are going to go through there. So they've got that plant built. And here's gas burns at a drill site on the Yamal Peninsula. Maybe this is where some of that methane is coming from, no doubt. During drilling here and elsewhere in the world, excess gas that can't be brought to market is routinely flared, usually in less empty places from a tall stack. There you go. Last year, the Russian energy giant Novatek finished building the northernmost industrial facility on the globe. See? Right there. Right there, Yamal. There's Novaya Zemlya. Here's Yamal Peninsula over here on the east side. Sticks up like a frostbitten thumb into the Kara Sea. That is in the middle of frozen nowhere. Yeah. It won't be frozen much longer. The plant was finished a year ahead of schedule, in no small part because the Russian government helped build a massive port for LNG tankers, an airport, and a power plant, not to mention using its fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers to keep the channel clear for ships coming in with construction material. Well, that's why the methane has been releasing in the wintertime. That explains it. Look at that. Nurlan is one of many workers at the Yamal LNG plant who come from Kazakhstan, which is also a major producer of oil and gas. There he is. There's Nurlan. And that's just the beginning. Some 15 ice-breaking LNG tankers are on order, along with a new rail line and 2 more LNG facilities across the Ob River estuary. The Russians expect all the plants to produce a combined 60 million tons of LNG each year by 2030. That just makes me sick. I can't look at that. I can't read any more of that. So, well, I already got the link. Anyway, if people want to read that article, they can. And then I've got one more article, and then we'll do earthquakes. This is from the LA Times. And this is, we should brace ourselves, death toll top 600 in Africa cyclone disaster. So this is a follow-up on Mozambique and that cyclone a day. An aerial view of the flooding in central Mozambique. Look at that. The death toll in the region has exceeded 600 and is expected to keep climbing. That's awful. I mean, you can't even see where the water ends. It's just like a lake over the land. With the flooding easing in parts of cyclone-stricken Mozambique, fears rose Friday as the scope of the disaster continues to be revealed. So far, more than 600 people have been killed in Mozambique and neighboring Zimbabwe and Malawi in this disaster. 8 days after Cyclone Idai struck Southeast Africa's Indian East Ocean coast, touching off some of the worst flooding in decades, the homeless, hungry, and injured slowly made their way from devastated inland areas to the port city of Beira, which was heavily damaged itself, but has emerged as the nerve center for rescue efforts. Some were wounded, some were bleeding. Some had feet white like flour from being in the water for so long. Aid workers reported seeing many children who'd been separated from their parents in the chaos. And they said relief efforts so far are nowhere near the scale and magnitude of the problem. And so it's just awful. It's just awful. So there's my stories for today. No good news. I'm sorry, no good news. And it's just more bad news. I got the bad news blues. So now let's move on over to earthquakes. I have USGS pulled up here for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours, and we're showing 216 on the map worldwide. Of those, we have 45 that are 2.5 magnitude and higher. Now remember this big 6.2 that we saw down here in Colombia yesterday? Well, we had one almost the same size directly across the Pacific. 6.1 came in at Bitung, Indonesia last night at 11:37 p.m. 37 kilometers deep. And then we're seeing lots and lots of larger earthquakes around all of these red lines. And more earthquakes over here in Africa and in Indian Ocean. We've even got one over here in Spain today. So let's see what's about to go off the map. This 5.4, I think I reported on this. Anyway, I'll go ahead and report on this. We'll start down here in Indonesia. 5.4 near Pindolo, Indonesia. This happened last night at 6:31 p.m. and it was on land, and that would be big enough to cause damage. There was this 4.7 in the water there near Lubbock at 4:01 this morning. And then this very large 6.1 came in last night at 9:37 p.m., 37 kilometers deep. It was in the ocean, so it probably didn't cause any damage, but you could feel it. If you were over there, you could feel it. Trust me. You would feel a 6.1. Next, we have one right on this red line in the Indian Ocean. It's actually two. The smaller one happened first in the same place at 4.8 at the Carlsberg Ridge yesterday at 8:36 p.m. and then a 5.2 yesterday 1 minute later at 8:37 p.m. So they were 1 minute apart. Actually only about 30 seconds apart. And these times I'm telling you are Pacific time, because that's my time zone, and it's easier for me to think in those time zones. Next we have one near Mayati, to the northwest of this little island off the coast of Africa. Now this is where all that flooding was that we just saw that article about. Beira is right down here in this little crook. So that flooding was going, and it affected Zimbabwe and Malawi and a whole huge area. Because that cyclone a day went right through this channel and hit and just churned and churned. So now here's an earthquake in the ocean, 4.3 near Pamanzi Mayati. This came in last night at 8:15 p.m. And we have one in Kenya, 4.8 near Wundanyi, Kenya at 9:21 this morning, 9 kilometers deep. That would be big enough that you could feel. It might have caused some damage. Next we've got one right off the coast of Spain in the Algerian basin, it looks like. A 3.3 near Guadalmar del Segura, Spain at 9:16 this morning. Next, coming on up, this Pacific Rim was a 4.7 in the Kuril Islands at 9:38 last night, 35 kilometers deep. Next was a 4.8. This is south of Kamchatka, Russia here. Near Severo, Kurilsk, Russia at 7:32 this morning, 37 kilometers deep. And then a 4.4 right next to it today at 5:23 this afternoon, 47 kilometers deep. Now in South America was a 4.6 near Calama, Chile at 9:48 last night, 115 kilometers deep. A lot of activity at 9:30 last night. And another 4.3 near Calama at 6:34 this morning, 112 kilometers deep. And a 4.4 near Putre, Chile at 10:30 this morning, 121 kilometers deep. Look at all of these right down here in Nicaragua. Alright, first one was a 3.7 near Santa Teresa, Nicaragua at 8:22 last night, 74 kilometers deep. That was on the coast. I can't tell. Yeah, it was on the land. Next, this one was in the ocean, a 5.3 off the coast of Nagarote, Nicaragua at 2:30 this morning, 95 kilometers deep. Then here was one on land, a 4.5 near Leon, Nicaragua at 9:19 this morning, 145 kilometers deep. That was right next to that main road there. Moving on up, 5.1 off the coast of San Francisco del Mar, Mexico at 5:27 this morning, 50 kilometers deep. Next, here's one right on this red line, another one off the coast of Mexico, 4.3 near Socorro Island, Mexico at 6:58 this morning. I think that's all of the international ones. Now let's go to let's go to Hawaii next. We've got 14 here today. I'll call them out. 2.1, and some of these are at negative depth, meaning the earthquake is up in the chamber of the volcano or the mountain. This one happened at 7:30 last night at a minus 0.9 kilometers deep. That's at Mauna Loa. Another one at Mauna Loa, 2.1 at 7:30 last night. That's happened 2 seconds after the first one at a minus 0.3 kilometers depth. 2.0 near Kilauea. 1.7 Kilauea. 1.9. 2.0 over at Mauna Loa again. 2.9 near Waimea. That's one of the larger ones at 6:43 this morning, 16 kilometers deep. 2.2 at Kilauea. 1.9. 1.8 Kilauea at 0.2 kilometers depth. 1.8 at Kilauea at minus 0.4 kilometers depth. 1.9 Kilauea. 2.0 Kilauea at 0 kilometers depth, and 1.8 at Kilauea at a minus 0.7 kilometers depth. That one came in at 3:15 this afternoon. So this is perking back up down here at Kilauea, right in the crater. So there's that. Lots of stuff. Now moving on, I want to do Dominican Republic next. There's so many. I get lost. We've got 20 here today. And we have a lot that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So I'm going to go over to that map. 13 of them are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So I'll just call off those, and then we'll know that 7 are lower than that. 2.8, 3.0, 2.6, 3.4, 2.7, 3.1, 3.3, 3.4, 3.4, 2.8, 3.4, 2.8, and 3.1. All of those were in the ocean except for one. And then here's the map with all magnitudes. So the smaller ones are pretty much on land. 2.7 there, 2.2. Now these are not big enough to do damage, but it's showing movement. That's Puerto Rico there. Now let's move on up to Alaska. Including this one in the Aleutian Islands, we've got 65 on the map today, so that's an uptick from the last few days. That's definitely an uptick. Now Alaska, they say averages between 50 and 100 a day, but we have not seen this high a number in a while. We're going to start with this 4.6 at Little Sitkin Island, Alaska at 2:17 this afternoon, 89 kilometers deep. Here's a 2.5 Larsen Bay, 3.1 King Salmon, 2.7 Anchor Point. Now these are just 2.5 magnitude or higher, just to get those, the larger ones, out of the way. 2.6 near Circle Hot Springs Station at 0.1 kilometers depth. 2.9 Arctic Village, 0.1 kilometers depth. 3.0 Kutovik, 0.8 kilometers depth. So these are shallow. Some of these are really shallow. So let's move on in with all magnitudes. Here's a 2.5, 3.1, we saw those. 2.3, 2.1. Now these are near Redoubt Volcano. 1.9, 2.1, 1.8, those are all near Redoubt. Here's a 2.7 and so forth. Here's our cluster at Anchorage. Now if we're just looking at this whole viewing area, there's 45 here today, including the Alaska range with them dotted around. So we're seeing a bit of an uptick here. Let's look over here in this little corner. We're seeing 4 here at Gustavus, 2.40 kilometers depth, 2.1, 2.40 depth, and 2.3. So, and here's one 2.0 near Cape Yakataga. So most of these are ones in the low one, kind of mid to high 1s to 2s range, most of these. Here's another one at Kobuk, 2.2. What's going on up here? We're seeing a 1.9 at Arctic Village too. So there's that. Now let's come on down into the lower 48. Let's start with this one down here in Florida. It's just on the other side of Florida. It's in Alabama. A 2.5 near Bruton, Alabama. This happened at 4:40 this morning. 5 kilometers deep, just across the line from Florida. Next is a 2.6 near Pawnee, Oklahoma at 10:57 this morning. And this is an area we don't hardly ever see earthquakes, but I know where Snyder is. I used to live in Lubbock. I kind of grew up in Lubbock. This is in Texas. Snyder is a big oil town, and there's the way Texas is made up here. There's this is called the Cap Rock up here, and it's flat. It's all flat up here, and when you're coming up the Cap Rock, it's very hilly, and Snyder is not on the Cap Rock. It's in that hilly part, so it could be an area that they could have earthquakes, and especially it's an oil town too. So there could be fracking and drilling there, no doubt. No doubt there is. So this was a 2.1 magnitude earthquake that happened near Snyder, Texas at 8:24 last night, 1.5 kilometers deep. So if you want to see, if you want to get Google Earth, we can see where that is. See the terrain. Just out of curiosity. I mean, I know what it looks like, but other people might want to know, might have an inquiring mind. So, let's get this pulled up here. There it is. Yep, there's oil drilling going on. You can see, okay, here's the oil drilling. This is like what Dutch Sense would show. That's a pump. That's a pump, and this is an oil drilling operation. So the earthquake was right here. And all these little roads go out to another pump. And this is hilly here, and it's got covering. It's got some trees and stuff. But you see all of these pads? These are drilling. That's all drilling operations. Every single one of those is. And I've been there. It looks pretty flat, but it is Snyder is not on the Cap Rock. Look how red that is. And then when you go west, here's Lubbock. Well, maybe Snyder is right at the edge of the Cap Rock. I think it is. And you go up and down these hills, up and down and up and down as you're climbing up the Cap Rock. And then you come up, and then it's totally flat. I mean, flat as far as you can see. Flat, flat, flat. So, anyway, I didn't know it'd be that easy to see all the oil wells, but you can see them. Look at them. All of those are oil wells. I'm doing a Dutch Sense here. Every single one of those. If you zoom in, you see all these little pads? That's an oil well. That's just from the angle of it. That's looking down on it. But that's an oil well drilling. Every single one of those. So it's really no surprise that they had an earthquake there. But that's a pretty big one. Look at that. It's all the way up and down there. Whoa, look at that. Those are all pads, oil well. Here's something. Anyway, it's probably the headquarters for it. So this is what they've done to Mother Earth. I think she's having a nervous breakdown. Anyway, we'll close that out. So there's Snyder, Texas, in case anybody wanted to know. Next, New Mexico's clear, Colorado's clear, Arizona's clear, Utah is clear, that's kind of freaky. Wyoming is clear, that's kind of freaky too. Now up here in the Yellowstone area, we're going to start off with this 2.0 near Lima, Montana at 12:32 this morning. Then there was a 2.2 near Manhattan, Montana at 12 o'clock this morning. And a 3.2 near Sealy Lake, Montana at 4:53 this morning. So that's getting on up there. So this is all in that Yellowstone region. So these are some larger ones. Then we've got one up here right on the border between Washington and Canada, a 2.1, they're calling it near Nooksack, Washington, yesterday at 6:52 last night. Moving on down, we've got two right here on this this red line. This is where the San Andreas fault line comes up and meets the Juan de Fuca plate and the Cascadia subduction zone. The first one is this 4.3 in the ocean right on this red line. I mean 4.4 listed down here, that happened this morning at 4:32 a.m. at 1 kilometer deep. Not very deep at all. And a 2.0 on land near Port Petrolia at 10:17 this morning, 6 kilometers deep. What's going on at the geysers today? 34 here. This is a geothermal pumping operation where they drill into the volcano to get heat. I've seen that on Google Earth. I haven't shown that to you yet, but we're running so long today. I'll show that to you another day. Here's one in the San Francisco area, 1.7 near San Leandro, California at 11:03 last night. I want to come back up here. I want to cover Nevada next. Here is minus 0.1 near Cold Springs at 9:14 last night. We had a cluster up here the last few days, but there's only one left there, so maybe it's calmed down. And then a 0.4 south of Cold Springs at 8:50 last night. So here's the Reno area. Lake Tahoe's clear. Next is a 0.6 near Fernley at 12:53 this morning, and a 1.3 near Lovelock at 10:57 last night. Okay. Next, coming on down in Nevada, Hawthorne's clear. Goldfield is only showing 2 today, a 0.6 and a 0.8. And then we've got 4 down here, including Beatty and Pahrump, that are microquakes of 0.1, 0.2, 0, and 0.8. And that's all in southern Nevada. Now it is Saturday, so the earthquake makers are at home. So hopefully we won't see any blasts or explosions today. But look at the difference in the number of earthquakes everywhere. 1.2 at Mammoth Lakes at 1:49 this afternoon. At a minus 0.4 kilometers depth. That was up in the mountain. Look at the difference. Well, we'll be getting some more. Just because we're not seeing that many over here today doesn't mean we're done. Here in Southern California, we're seeing 40 here today. Let's see what's 2.5 magnitude and higher. There's a 3.3 was the biggest one near Lake Henshaw at 10:41 last night. Right here. And it looks like it had a cluster right beside the lake. There were 6 there. So first there was a 3.3, then 0.7, 2.2, 0.6, 0.9, 0.9. So that was last night. Was it? Yeah, they started last night, and then the last one was at 9:30 this morning. Here's one by the Salton Sea, 1.1. These are pretty small. We're not going to go over all of these. Here's Kauai with 9 today. And here's 1.4 at Thousand Palms. This one that just came in was a 1.2 at Fontana. So we're not going to go over every single one of those. Here's a 1.2 near Maricopa. A 2.0 near Chatsworth. Look how clear it is down here through Death Valley and that whole eastern side. And not very many on the western side either. 1.6 at Tres Pinos. And that's it. I think that's a wrap. So maybe because we had all those big earthquakes in other places, it took the pressure off California and Nevada. Plus the earthquake makers are at home. They need to stay home. So let's see if there's anything that's standing out. Yes, we have a new one. Looks like a new one down here. Just came in the ocean. A 4.5 near Nisano, Dua, Indonesia at 6:13 p.m. 82 kilometers deep. Just to the west of this little island. So expect an active weekend, an active week next week. If it's like this, and this is only Saturday. Is this Saturday or Sunday? I don't even know what day it is anymore. Did I say Saturday in the opening? This is Sunday. Okay, if I said it wrong in the opening, I'll go back and re-record it. This is Sunday, and all the earthquake makers are at home. They'll be back at work tomorrow, and we will have an uptick. I feel certain of it. That's my prediction. There will be more earthquakes. That's my prediction. There will always be more. So, that's it for tonight. I love you guys. Time is very short. And I recommend everyone get your spiritual house in order while you still can. I love you. God bless you. Go in peace and good night.